With World War II in full swing, the United States sought to find a way to keep their home country supportive of the troops, but also to take the citizens' mind off of war. The film industry was one of the top ways to do so. During the war, families of soldiers would go to the movies to see the moviolas, which were news segments that had newscasters speaking of what was going on overseas, which people in the States preferred to reading in a newspaper. Although many film writers worked to make films unrelated to war, the terrors occurring found a way to weave themselves into the storylines. An example of this is the movie Casablanca.
Although Casablanca does not focus solely on the war effort, it does touch upon the idea of commitment. The concept of America's commitment to the global war parallels with the character's personal commitment issues. The famous line,
"I bet they're asleep in New York. I bet they're asleep all over America,"
served as a wake-up call to Americans in 1942. It called attention to the advantages of international intervention and toyed upon the opinion that America should become the guardian of the whole world. Many more movies were made with hidden messages about the war and how Americans at home could help the effort. People would also often go watch plays and musicals in the theater for an outlet to get their minds off of the worry that the war caused them.
Broadway had more of a rough time in the 1940s because of the competition with films. Many Broadway theaters were turned into cinemas, leaving more than 80% of Broadway actors unemployed. And in 1948, Broadway had to call the first ever emergency meeting for all theater unions and workers. This downward spike began to rise again in the 1950s, with more political persecution and general intolerance across the United States. Broadway became more popular once more because of its ability to be controversial, express unorthodox opinions, and not be afraid of the government. This is shown in shows West Side Story, A Yank in the RAF, and Guys and Dolls. All of these shows brought life and promise back into the theater and gave Broadway its well-known golden age.
As the years progressed and the film and theater industry grew, features tended to focus away from the war sentiment and towards more controversial topics. These topics could range from violence to sexuality. Issues regarding the violence and harsh language that were expressed in the play West Side Story. Although seen as inappropriate, the language added more personality to the show. The play also introduced the new ideas of violence and disagreements between officials and civilians, as well as combination of both romance and violence. Another hounding issue at the time was the transformation of the modest sense of women. The movie Some Like It Hot introduced women as sexual figures. They also used comedy to make fun of the women within the play by having some men play the women characters in some of the scenes by having them wear makeup and dresses. Men portraying women is seemingly unheard of before this movie, and it introduced cross-dressing as a form of comedy. The immature appearance of women in this movie helped lead to the future portrayal of women as objects.
Hello, gorgeous. Overall, it is clear to see the impact that the entertainment industries of the post-war era has created on film and Broadway productions today. Movies today are embracing rather than shying away from war stories. They take inspiration from the war films made in the 40s and 50s and put a modern twist on them. Over the past decade, a multitude of war movies have been produced, and consumers love them. Without the bold steps of film producers in the 40s, these movies may not have been as popular as they are today. In regards to the ideals of the 50s and 60s, film and Broadway has not shied away from the portrayals of violence and sexuality. It is no surprise that most movies within the past couple decades contain some aspect of violence. Movies continue to cause controversy in modern-day entertainment. A movie that has caused some controversy with its extreme violence and harsh language is Deadpool. Cross-dressing as a form of comedy is still evident in our media today, especially in skits such as Saturday Night Live. Women have also achieved more starring roles than ever in the past year. Movies such as Wonder Woman and Hidden Figures showing a leading female cast. Despite the ever-changing technology and ideals, it is evident that post-war entertainment has indeed affected the film and Broadway industries today.